Hello, and welcome back to Fusion Writing, where building character meets creating structure. And we are ready for a wonderful map session where we lay out for you the topics for the week and show you how you can make use of them in your writing. So without further ado, I'll send you over to Victoria. Victoria?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So we've been talking about the zero draft and the process of assembling the components that you will need to start your writing. Now, obviously, implements or instruments of writing are going to be critical to this. So I know some people like to handwrite out on a notepad or note cards. Some people prefer maybe speech to text. Some people are doing, typing, keyboarding, laptop, computer, what have you. Whatever that process looks like for you, the important next steps when you go from notes and thoughts and ideas over to rough drafting and working on that work in progress is just getting the stuff on the page. So when I talk about this with my students, I like to refer to something that I call the minimum viable unit, or the MVU. That is the minimum unit that you sit down to write in a writing sprint, which is just a period of time that you dedicate to writing. For me, I like about 25-minute sprints, and I can write around 600 to 800 words in that time period. I've done it enough to know that 25 minutes is a good time for me. 20 minutes is too short, 30 is a little too long, 25 is my sweet spot. And I can always get around 700 words written. So if you think about that and you know that is your operating procedure, then you can start to think through how to get to the end of a writing project, because you're just going to pepper those sprints out during the task blocks or times that you have to work. So let's say you've got a free hour. That could be 2 writing sprints. If you're working at speed and on task, you're going to get, if you're me, somewhere around 1,400 words. That's a great writing day. Even if you have to do 1 sprint in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, whenever you've got that 25 or 30-minute block, sit down and do the work, because you've already got your note cards. You've already written down your ideas, your thoughts. Maybe you've done a little story map and you kind of know you need to get your character from here over to here. You've thought through some of those pre-writing steps, and now you're ready to draft it out. So what other things are you focusing on when you're thinking about writing those MVUs, those little story units that generally comprise a scene? Sometimes you're going to join 2 together to make a full scene. But what are you thinking about? Well, you could be thinking about the what of your story. The what of your story is the plot, right? The plot is just the sequence of events that moves your character through the story, that allows one thing to build on another. So if you're writing about events or things that are happening, that's when you're writing those plot scenes. Another critical piece is setting. When you're thinking about narrative elements, if you're not thinking about plot, maybe you're thinking about, where are these things taking place? There are some scenes in her apartment. There are some scenes where she works. Maybe there's a scene in a coffee shop. So you can take any of those elements of setting and start writing those out. Maybe you're going to go to a cafe and sit with your experience cards, and you're going to do some experience collecting. And you're going to write out that MVU, that little unit, about the smells and the sounds, and what's the tone of the room, what's the baseline of everyone that's in the room, and what are they doing. Those are the kinds of details that maybe when you get back home and you're ready to sit down and really dig into writing your scene, you're going to pull on those little pieces that you've observed and written. So that's another way of breaking down setting. Literally go somewhere, record it in your notes, and then go back and write the scene. That's how you capture setting. Or you can imagine it. I know writers who are really good at just following those breadcrumb trails through their imagination and literally just seeing the scene in their head and sitting down and writing it. That's okay too. Whatever method works for you, you have to get those words on the page, because you can fix a bad page. You can't fix a blank page. So get those things down, get those sprints in. That way you've got something to work with as you start to string your story together. So we know that plot is the what. We know that setting, whether it's real or imagined, is the where. And then we've got time, which is the when, which The only way you're really writing about time is if you're flashing forward or flashing backward. That's another narrative element. But if you're just writing in the current scene, current timeline, what this character is doing right now, you're focusing on where they are. And obviously the third element is character. So Kathleen mentioned yesterday in the compass about listening to those voices in your head. What are they telling you to do? Are they compelling you in this direction or in that direction? Is it a positive compulsion or a negative compulsion? What are those things that you're grappling with throughout your day? Well, your characters are doing the same thing. So maybe when you sit down to work on those minimum units, you're going to put yourself in the mind of that character. And that's where your scene or your material is going to come from. You're going to be thinking, okay, she's had a fight with her mother, so she's going to be in an upset state of mind, but she has a big important meeting to prepare for. What is her self-talk? What does that internal monologue look like? Often, writing out that character's thoughts, maybe as she's cleaning up after breakfast, she's mulling over this remaining threads of argument that she's had and this impending meeting that she has to prepare for. That's how you let your reader into the mind of that character, and you start revealing things about the character based on their internal monologue. Now, the obvious counterpoint to that is dialogue when they're talking with someone else. Or you can cheat and have them talking on the phone. That's a great cheat. If you want to have them talking with someone but not in the same place, just put them on a phone call. So again, once you start challenging your writer's imagination and start asking it, how do I reveal the details of this scene, setting and location? How do I reveal what this character is thinking, what their attitudes and perspectives are? Character voice. That's how you start driving that story forward and getting those little pieces out onto the page. So then you have something to move around and work with when you start doing the longer work of gathering scenes together into chapters. And then obviously your chapters become acts, and that's how you get the whole thing done. It really is just one little bite at a time. So with that, I'm going to throw you back over to Kathleen. Pay close attention as she's talking about voice, because that is a critical piece of developing and getting to know your character so that you can write them well. Kathleen?
Okay, Victoria, thank you so much. I really enjoyed that, and I really appreciate it because I also am trying to do some writing and picking up a story that I let get stalled for a long time. And it is very helpful to, the phrase that really is going to stick with me is you can fix a badly written page, but you cannot fix a blank page. So
Yes.
that's going to have to become a mantra for me. Thank you very much.
Full disclosure, I think it might be the author Nora Roberts who originally said something to that effect, but it's always stuck with me as well.
Great. Well, as Victoria reminded you, we're talking about voice in the units that I'm covering both this month and we'll wind it up next month, which is how to tell where a character trait is operating with your character and how that affects what your character can do with that character trait. And it also very much impacts your storyline because it's when these character traits change in position, marks major transitions in your story. And oftentimes, if you look at the story and you think of it in terms of the sequence of scenes and plot points, what you'll find behind that is the motivation that moves your character from one scene to the next scene to the next scene. And what is going on in his head will vary as the scenes change. Now, as you'll recall, we recently went through Derek Murphy's plot beats and plot points. And if you look at some of them, like, say, for instance, right after the inciting incident, the character gets pulled into the drama. He gets invited to go on an adventure. And then the next thing on Derek Murphy's plot beats is he puts his head in the sand. He says, no, I don't want to go on that adventure. But he's got to go on the adventure for the story. So the next plot beat is you pull the rug out from under him. So sand falls away. He's got to come out and face reality. So now what those things, the call to adventure was external. His reaction to it that made him put his head in the sand, that's internal. That's his character trait operating. And his character trait of avoidance And then when they pull the rug out from under him, that was done to him again. And now he's faced with a fresh set of circumstances. The situation has changed enough that he's got to face up to where that character trait used to be and maybe move it to a new position before he goes on to towards the next plot beat of the story. So with that in mind, what are these transitions? We've talked about the rudder, where well aware, making a conscious decision, freely able to say yay or nay, go or no go, yes or no. It's both are fully accessible to him when it's in the rudder state. That's what we covered last time. Well, this time we're going to talk about the wing state. I draw it on the character profile diagram of two up angle lines, but it almost feels like wings when you put your hands this way. Well, what can you do with wings? Well, one of the things you can do with wings is fly. They're flighty. Wings can make your character do things that are chaotic. Wings can pick you up from where you are and drop you into some place completely different, almost willy-nilly. That's the power of wings. They're inherently chaotic. They throw a monkey wrench into a situation. Well, if the character was able to decide and now it's in the wing, what does that mean? What do the voices change? Because the voices in the wing position do change. And very often what those voices are saying are things that make the character lose balance, lose sense of himself, lose confidence, feel that he can't accomplish anything. It's as though part of that free choice is gone. Now his only choice is the chaotic choice. The term paper is due. Dang it, dang it. It's not going to get done then, is it? The ability to make that kind of choice. Now what's going to happen to his scholarship? What's going to happen to his plans? What's going to happen to his relationship with his girlfriend? He's just thrown all of this to the winds. So that's the kind of voices that you very often hear in the wing position. They can be very depreciating, very negative, very put downy. So when your character is listening to voices that are busy telling him why he can't do something, that is very destructive to your character's confidence. Now, bear in mind, if it's a permanent constant state for your character, he's in trouble. But even your hero is going to face challenges that are big and scary. And his first reaction is probably going to be, I'm not up to that. I'll never make it. That's too big a challenge. I won't be able to do that. Of course, we know in the story, you're going to help him get to the point where he does do it, where he gets up his courage and he does face it, but he's human. So he faces that time period when it's like, I don't know. And so that flighty, chaosy sort of a thing is when the character trait is in the wing position. You can't really decide, you don't have full control of it. Another way to identify it in a less critical manner is something where there's just the constant voice going, well, you messed up on that again, didn't you? Well, I never say the right thing at the right time. They're just general things that pick at the character and his general self-esteem. That's another sign that the character trait is in the wing position. But now this is the wrinkle. It isn't always negative. Usually it's chaotic, and usually chaos is something that you just throws things in a mess. But creativity comes out of the wing position too. Maybe the character says, daggone it, I'm not going to do the stupid term paper. I'm going to finish this sculpture that has been in my heart and my mind for my whole life. And I'm going to finish it and make it, and I'm going to enter it into that contest. And that's could be a major point where the character breaks out of the mold that somebody else was imposing on him. And he uses that flightiness to escape from that and land himself in his new place, which is more firmly who he is as a character. But those wing traits, you want to know how you get from one scene to another? Take a look at those wing traits, because they can propel you in chaotic ways. So if you have to make a jump that seems a bit improbable, support it with character traits in the wing position, and your reader will understand that, it really was possible to make that kind of a big jump. So those voices are important. So what kind of character traits might you put in the wings? Well, we've gone through really all of them very briefly, but you're not going to be able to grasp all of them at once. If you have my book, you can play with the character traits. Oh, and if you're on LiLLiPub, my goodness, check out the two resources over there that have recently been dropped. Deb produced a character trait chart that summarizes all the 28 character traits and how you can nail them down very easily. And Julianne put a diagram out that helps you track multiple characters as they transition through the scenes. So there are videos out there on LiLLiPub also explaining how to use those diagrams and make really, really good use of them. Those diagrams alone are worth the monthly $8 a month for your LiLLiPub membership. But really, you don't necessarily have to know all 28 character traits. You know enough about human beings and about human beings act and believe because we all are human beings. So pick something that you've observed. Maybe there's somebody that you know well enough to know a bit about them, but you're distant enough from them that you can kind of abstract them and make them into a caricature of themselves that you can use in a story, and think about, okay, if I had to take that real person's character trait that I can kind of spot and make it a caricature trait, emphasize it, maybe look for somebody that can throw a monkey wrench into anything. That is a good sign of a wing trait. And you can play with that with your writing. And then when you've played with it and you've gotten some words down on a page, come on over to LiLLiPub also, because we have our fusion writing gatherings every Saturday. And not only will we be able to work on the writing that you have on the page, you'll have a group of people to help you work on the writing that you have on the page. But again, the group can't help you work with a blank page. So you do have to get those words onto the paper, as Victoria said. So how would you like to sum us up, Victoria?
Oh, what a wealth. Just what a wealth. I think this has to be one of my favorite episodes because there's so many different ways to approach figuring out the story and building your characters and building the world around them and then moving them through the plot. I mean, there's just countless ways to do it, but I love that we always manage to bring it back to the simple elements of the narrative and the simple elements of moving those character traits around, toggling them around, and developing those living, breathing people on the page. It's just exciting. So as always, we are so grateful to have you here with us. Come on over to LiLLiPub and join us if you're not over there, because we will keep the conversation going. And we would love to see your work. We're getting new members all the time and just so enjoy helping everyone in the Saturday workshop go through their own work and build it and mold it into the best piece that it can be. So please come and join us. We would love to have you. We're very kind and very helpful over there.
Thank you, Victoria. So remember, we're at lillipub.org. And where on earth can you get a team of teachers working with you personally for $8 a month? Really? These coaching sessions often are priced in the thousands of dollars. This is a golden opportunity while we're yet small, because there's going to be a time when people are going to be talking about LiLLiPub, and you'll join and you'll be one of 500. You'll sit in on Zoom calls, but you'll be one of 500. This is your chance to be one of 6 or one of 10 and really get some personal attention. So don't lose out on that opportunity. We'll see you over there. Bye-bye.
See you next time.